The Last Poem in the Rain.
Winter, 1930. Harlem, New York. The wind from the Hudson River blew into Harlem, bringing a biting chill, but not as cold as the atmosphere inside the secret jazz club deep in the basement of 135th Street. The saxophone groaned mournful melodies. Thick cigarette smoke hung like gray clouds. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson sat at his usual table in the dark corner. Before him was an ebony chessboard. He was playing to himself. White was under siege, but Bumpy held the black pieces. He liked playing black, he liked the counterattack from a defensive position. The heavy oak door swung open. The jazz music seemed to pause for a beat. A group of men entered. They didn't belong here. They wore expensive pinstripe suits, but tailored in the Chicago style, baggy to easily conceal their toys inside. Walking between them was a short, stocky man with 3 long scars on his left cheek, a haughty smile, and eyes that gleamed like those of a predator. Al Capone. He wasn't with the whole entourage, only his 2 most trusted bodyguards. This was a secret mission. Capone wanted discretion. He walked straight to Bumpy's table, pulled up a chair, and sat down without being invited. "Harlem is beautiful," Capone began, his voice hoarse with the smell of Cuban cigars and bootleg liquor. "But it lacks order, Ellsworth." Bumpy didn't look up, his hands still fiddling with his black knight. "Here we address each other by name, with respect, Mr. Capone. And order here is established by the people of Harlem, not by the people of Chicago." Capone laughed loudly, his laughter echoing, causing a few patrons in the tavern to turn around. But they immediately averted their gaze upon the bodyguards. "I like you." Capone leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I hear you're king around here. But I'm the emperor of bootlegging. I want to expand my supply line from Canada. I need Harlem as a transit point. I need you." Bumpy finally looked up. His eyes were as still as a deep lake. "And the price? 20% of the net profit. And I'll protect you from the Italians in New York. I'll make you the richest black man in America." It was an offer any criminal would have accepted. But Bumpy Johnson didn't. He gently placed his knight on the chessboard. "Mr. Capone," Bumpy said, his voice deep, but razor sharp. "You're mistaken about 2 things. First, I don't need protection. Second, Harlem isn't your warehouse. Your liquor brings trouble. I'm not selling out my neighborhood for Chicago's chaos." Capone's smile vanished. He glared at Bumpy. The air around them froze. "You're rejecting Al Capone." "I'm protecting my home," Bumpy replied calmly. "Please leave. The coffee here is bitter, not to Chicago's liking." Capone stood up abruptly, tossing the chessboard over. The pieces scattered across the wooden floor. "Fine, Bumpy. You like playing chess. I'll show you what it's like to lose the whole board." He turned and walked away, leaving a threat hanging in the smoke. Bumpy bent down, picked up the black king piece, wiped off the dust, and placed it back on the table. "Clean it up," he said softly to the waiter. "A storm is coming."
3 poisoned arrows.
Back at his luxurious Midtown hotel, Al Capone's rage erupted like a volcano. He smashed a bottle of whiskey against the wall. He wasn't used to being rejected, especially by someone he considered inferior. "Call the 3 here," Capone ordered his henchmen. The next morning, 3 men appeared in Capone's room. They weren't ordinary gunmen. They were professional assassins, ghosts, trained by Capone for impossible missions. 1. Salvatore the Butcher, a giant Italian skilled with knives and ropes. He enjoyed watching his victims die slowly. He knew no fear and no pain. 2. Rico, the Shadow, small and agile as a wildcat. He was a master of disguise and infiltration. Rico could enter your bedroom, kill you, and leave without disturbing a single grain of dust. 3. Vinny, silent. A sniper who never misses. His tongue was cut out at a young age, and he communicates with a cold, piercing gaze. Vinny always completes his missions from a distance of 300 meters. "I want Bumpy Johnson's head," Capone snarled. "No noise, no police. I want him to vanish. Tonight." The three assassins nodded. They received the money weapons and a photograph of Bumpy. They left heading north toward Harlem. They thought it was just another simple job, kill a local gang leader. But they made the biggest mistake of their lives. They entered the jungle without knowing that the lion there never sleeps. Harlem is not just a place, it is a living entity. Bumpy Johnson doesn't rule Harlem with mere fear. He rules with respect and a vast network of informants. From the moment the black car with the strange license plate rolled down Route 110, news spread. A shoeshine boy saw three strangers get out of the car. An old fruit vendor saw the giant Salvatore hiding a knife in his sleeve. A waiter saw Vinny the Mute climb onto the roof across from Bumpy's office. Information reached Bumpy's office faster than a telegraph. "Boss?" Bumpy's right-hand man whispered. "Three rats from Chicago have fallen into the trap." Bumpy was reading a Shakespeare book. He smiled, closing the book. "Chicago likes violence. We'll show them the art."
20 Hazard, the hunt begins.
Vinny, silent, crouched on the rooftop, assembling his rifle. He peered through Bumpy's office window. He saw Bumpy's familiar figure sitting in an armchair, his back to the window. An easy shot. Vinny held his breath, his finger tightening on the trigger. The bullet ripped through the glass, striking the target in the head. The figure collapsed. Vinny smirked, sheathing his rifle. He turned to leave through the emergency exit, but the exit was blocked. Standing there were none other than ordinary Harlem residents, dock workers with hands as big as oxen. Vinny was about to draw his pistol, but a blow from behind sent his world plunging into darkness. Down in the office, the corpse Vinny had shot was merely a mannequin dressed in Bumpy's suit. 21. Huzra. Death Alley. Rico, the Shadow, sneaked into the jazz club through the back door. He intended to poison Bumpy's drink. He moved stealthily, gliding through the kitchen. But when he opened the cold storage door to hide, he realized the room had no second exit. The cold storage door slammed shut from the outside with a loud bang. The sound of the latch clicking dryly echoed. Rico rushed to bang on the door, but to no avail. The temperature inside the cold storage began to drop below freezing. He heard Bumpy's voice through the crack in the door. "They say winters in Chicago are very cold. Enjoy the Harlem chill, buddy." 2200. A clash of strengths. Salvatore, the butcher, didn't like sneaking around. He stormed into the bar where Bumpy's gang was gathered, intending to cause a disturbance to lure Bumpy out. He drew his knife, roaring like a beast. But he forgot one thing. Bumpy Johnson was a top-notch street fighter, and so were his bodyguards. Dozens of dark muzzles pointed at Salvatore from every corner of the bar. "Put the knife down, big guy," a voice rang out. Bumpy emerged from the shadows, an unlit cigarette in his hand. "Didn't your mother teach you not to play with knives in someone else's house?" Salvatore lunged, but he was subdued by precise and ruthless blows with a baseball bat. Not a single gunshot, only the sound of breaking bones.
Missing.
The next morning, Al Capone sat waiting for news in his hotel room. He glanced at his watch. 4 hours had passed since their appointment. No one had returned. Not a single phone call. He sent his henchmen to investigate. The news that came back sent chills down Capone's spine. "Boss, nothing. No dead bodies. No news in the newspapers. The police found nothing. Bumpy is alive. He even distributed turkeys to the poor this morning." "Where are my 3 best assassins?" Capone roared. "They can't just vanish." But they had indeed vanished. Rumors circulated that Vinny Silent had been buried alive under the foundations of a building under construction in Queens. Rico the Shadow had become an iceberg drifting out into the Atlantic. And Salvatore, some said he had been stuffed into a barrel filled with cement and thrown to the deepest part of the Don River. No one knew for sure. Harlem's code of silence is even more terrifying than the omerta of the Italian mafia. In Harlem, when Bumpy wants someone to disappear, not even a shadow of that person remains.
Checkmate.
3 days later, a package arrived at Al Capone's hotel. There was no sender's name. Capone tremblingly opened the box. Inside were 3 items. 1. A broken rifle scope. Vinny's. 2. A handkerchief embroidered with Rico's name. 3. Salvatore's blood-soaked dagger. And on top, a white king with its head broken off. Attached was a small piece of paper written in neat, elegant handwriting. Dear Mr. Capone, your 3 pawns have gone astray. I have helped you clean up the chessboard. Harlem is my chessboard. If you wish to play again, bring your own head as a bet next time. Sincerely, BJ. Capone stared at the box. For the first time in years, the godfather of Chicago felt a chill. He realized that in New York, there were forces that guns couldn't threaten. Harlem's intelligence and unity under Bumpy Johnson was an impenetrable fortress. Pack your bags, Capone ordered, his voice weary. We're going back to Chicago. A thick cloud of white smoke erupted, engulfing the entire center of the warehouse in an instant. Visibility immediately plummeted to...
They're gone, aren't they? He asked the bodyguard behind him. Yes, sir. Capone has left the city. Bumpy nodded. He returned to the chessboard where the unfinished game from the previous day still lay. He picked up the Black Knight, placing it in a position to checkmate the imaginary White King. In Harlem, Bumpy whispered to himself, a king isn't someone with a crown. A king is someone who knows how to keep his people safe. Outside, snow began to fall, covering every trace as if death had never visited.